Over the years, our phones and tablets have become little gaming machines. Games from the Play Store and the App Store are becoming more and more console-like. Emulation offers the ability to play retro games, and even the biggest modern AAA games can be played using streaming services like Xbox Game Pass and Amazon Luna. To keep up, various controller options have been used. First, we had the controller clips. Then we had telescopic options like Backbone and the Razer Kishi. And then, of course, there's the dreaded touch controls. But this is MCON, the switchblade of mobile game controllers. Hi, I'm Paul, and this is Indie Pop Productions, pop culture from an independent point of view. And today, we're going to talk about the MCON, an early entry into what appears to be a new wave of controllers for your phone. A couple of years ago, a 19-year-old named Joshua King was sitting in his dorm room, and he thought to himself, there has to be a better way to play Minecraft on my phone. So he took apart a few controllers, 3D printed a model, and got this proof of concept into the hands of a few influencers. A buzz started going. King partnered with a company called OSnap, a company that creates cell phone accessories, and they started a Kickstarter that raised nearly $1.8 million in pre-orders. The project took a little longer than expected. As I'm writing this, not everyone that made those pre-orders has received theirs, but the end product was well worth the wait. I received my MCON on Christmas Eve, a little unplanned Christmas gift to myself, and I've been using it for about a month since then, and I have been loving it. Clearly, I've already opened this up. This is not an unboxing video. When this came out, I had been following the project almost since the beginning, and I couldn't wait to get it into my hands. I tore right into it instead of grabbing my camera. That said, I did reassemble the box so I could give you a semblance of what opening one would be like. First thing you notice is the packaging. Looks nice, has a good weight to it. You immediately know you're holding a premium product. Open it up, not much on the inside, a fairly used quick start guide. And here you'll see this ring. I don't have much use for it, but you might. The device is MagSafe, so your phone attaches to the MCON the same way it would any other MagSafe device. I use an iPhone with a MagSafe case, so I'm good to go. If you don't have a phone that uses MagSafe, you can attach this little MagSafe ring to it, and then in theory, you'll be good to go. That said, I would highly suggest trying to find a MagSafe case for your phone before attaching it to the MCON. I don't really have any quantifiable evidence. Everything else they put out is high quality product, but I just do not trust this thing, especially when you're just adhering it with a sticker basically on the back of this to your phone so it can stick attached to the MCON. I'm sure they did a good job. Everything else was a good job, but get a case with MagSafe on it. Underneath that, you have the MCON itself, and I think it came with a USB charging cable, but I tossed that in a box with the rest of those. All of these companies assume you already have a charging block and cut costs by just giving you a charging cable. Just once, I would love for one of these companies to assume I have enough of these cables and cut costs by just giving me a charging block. The device feels nice in my hands. The buttons are clicky without being too loud. I was happy to see that it has stacked shoulder buttons. They don't flare out because it needs to fit in your pocket, but they feel great. You have these fold-out grips to make it a little more ergonomic. I have a tendency to forget about these, but it really does help during longer play sessions. Now, let's attach the phone to the controller. It does not pop out quite as quickly with the phone attached because physics, but the hold is solid. I can hold it upside down, give it a pretty good little shake. I'm sure if you shake it hard enough, you can get it to fall off, but I think you'll break it before that happens. But normal use, I am completely comfortable here. I went into Apple Arcade and downloaded Sonic Racing. It handles very nicely. Not as complex as the console releases of Sonic Team Racing. The Apple Arcade games have been improving lately, but these games are still a bit simple. It's not taking advantage of everything the MCON has to offer, but I think they're building these games assuming the average player isn't going to be using a controller like this. Hopefully, as this new wave of controllers by OSnap as well as others gets into more hands, that'll change. To take a little better advantage of the hardware, let's move over to Xbox Game Pass for a little game streaming. And if the weight of your phone is getting to you, MCON has you covered. The top section detaches from the controller and acts as a kickstand. Since I've been on a retro kick, we're going to try out Marvel's Secret Invasion, a new game, retro-styled, not old. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up. I just started, so I haven't unlocked any characters beyond the starting choices. We'll go with Nova for long distance attacks and flight, and Wolverine for melee. Very smooth with the MCON. I'm not noticing any lag. If it looks like I'm getting my butt kicked, blame the player, not the controller. In my defense, I'm still getting used to playing while sitting behind a camera. On the go, and want to play on a bigger screen? If you're like me and you don't carry a full-size controller with you everywhere, but you do more often than not bring your iPad, the MCON pairs nicely. I loaded up RetroArch and got ready for a session playing Atari 5200 classics. A quick note on emulation. There are varied opinions on this topic. There are people on one side that argue for the rights of the copyright holders, and on the other side, there are people that are fighting for game preservation. And I see both sides of this argument, especially with these older games that can only be played on aging hardware. But we're not going down that rabbit hole today. For the purposes of my channel, I only plan on showing emulation when I am playing a game that I already own. And I own a copy of Dig Dug for the Atari 5200. I love this game. I could play it all day and it looks great on my iPad. Man, that hits the nostalgia button. Most retro gamers prefer the D-pad for these older games, but for some reason on the 5200 games I have tried so far, I have an easier time using the left thumbstick. We're only going left, right, up, and down here, so that doesn't really make a ton of sense. Maybe it's just me, but using the MCON to play the Atari 5200 version of Dig Dug on my iPad is a treat. The MCON can also pair with your Nintendo Switch or Switch 2. I assume it could pair with any console or computer, but it makes more sense with a Switch. You're on the road, want to put your Switch down, but don't feel like using loose Joy-Cons. Let's go try out Super Mario Bros. From Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo. Yes, I grew up playing the NES version of this game, but the All-Stars version is the best way to play, and I will die on that hill. Smooth, back to using the D-pad. I guess preferring the thumbstick was just an Atari quirk. Again, for any gameplay issues, remember, blame the player, not the controller. And we'll jump forward a few generations and play Super Mario Odyssey. I haven't played this in ages. None of my saves are on my Switch 2, so we have to start from the beginning. Not one of the prettier levels, but plays great with the MCON. A few last minute notes. You may have noticed from my positive tone that yes, I do love this little controller. But it's not alone. There's plenty of competition on the horizon. And the MCON may be a little more premium than those options, but it does cost more, so you have to take that into consideration. I personally have already pre-ordered GameSir's Pocket Taco controller off of Kickstarter. This one is a more vertical handheld classic Game Boy style experience for a significantly lower price. So hopefully you'll hear me talking about that one in just a few months. And there are others coming from companies like Absolute and 8BitDo. It's a new wave of mobile gaming controllers, and I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing because I can't wait to experience them with you.